This is The Comms Exchange, a podcast by 3090 Marketing. Each episode, we sit down with colleagues, leaders, and changemakers to share stories and lessons from the field of community and economic development. Together, we explore how communications shapes strategy, builds trust, and drives momentum because every project, every partnership, every breakthrough begins the same way, with a conversation. Hello, and welcome to the Comms Exchange. I'm Rachel Ledet.
And I'm Christianne Brunini.
And we have a very special guest on our show today, Mr. Oji Alexander with People's Housing Plus. And we would love to introduce him to you and a little bit about our working relationship and the wonderful things his organization is doing.
Well, first, I just want to say that coming to 3090 after years of working in affordable housing, this is a special treat for me. I know that the two of you worked together before I came on board, but it taps my special place in my heart for affordable housing and removing blight and really how communications and events and media relations can help galvanize community support to help make these projects happen. So thanks for coming today, Oji.
Oh, well, thanks. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm really, really happy to be here.
Would you like to just introduce yourself and your organization a little bit and about what your role has been since the organization, which to my knowledge was 3 nonprofits working in a similar space, and kind of what has happened over the last year or two with what you're doing with People's Housing Plus? We'd love to just have our audience know a little bit more about you.
Great. Yes. My name is Oji Alexander, and I'm the CEO of People's Housing Plus. People's Housing Plus was created through a strategic merger of 3 small New Orleans-based nonprofit affordable housing developers. The organization that I led, which was called Home by Hand, we were born out of Hurricane Katrina recovery. And historically, we did production, single family for home ownership. The second organization was Tulane Canal Neighborhood Development Corporation. They were a place-based organization, also focused on single family affordable housing for home ownership, but really had a focus on financial literacy and preparing buyers for home ownership. And the third is the Crescent City Community Land Trust, which is one of our city's 2 community land trusts. So what we were able to do is create an organization that not only addressed the affordable housing supply, but the goal was really to create an organization that created and developed a number of different affordable housing options all under one roof. We've built over 250 single family homes since Hurricane Katrina. In addition to that, we've added new offerings and new products that we like to call them. So not only do we do fee simple affordable housing for home ownership, we also do community land trust ownership, which is a shared equity model that makes ownership a lot more attainable for low and moderate income folks. We develop affordable rental housing. We do lease to own. And what we're really excited about, what we're working on most recently, is small multifamily, both through ownership and rental housing. And all of that housing development is bookended by our slate of client services and stewardship programming, everything from financial literacy on the front end to home maintenance and buyer preparation, and then our post-sales our post-sale stewardship services, such as providing wills for folks and estate planning. We've gone back and retrofitted homes with fortified roofs. So this idea of this holistic approach to housing, start to finish, with support all the way through the continuum of the ownership process.
That's
And
so
what's
impressive.
Yeah, and just the fact that it is multifaceted in that y'all are taking the educational approach and the finance approach and the actual supply problem and sort of weaving different opportunities for different people at different levels to get there, I think is special about having 3 become 1, that you don't always see. Like you see developers and you see nonprofits, but you don't always see the whole ecosystem sort of working together. And so while all the work that you do is impactful, our team specifically got to play a small hand on a special project that I would like to focus on today because there's a lot of story as part of it. And part of the fun on our side was not only learning the story of what was happening and what had happened in the past, but kind of helping you and your team with the delivery of the story going forwards, because we were able to use events surrounding the project to catapult some really great stuff with publicity and advocacy. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Louisiana Firehouse Project and a little bit about the history and just how special that building is, even just from an architectural standpoint within New Orleans, in case people have never really heard of this sort of special nuggets of these firehouses that were built.
Yeah, so we're really excited about the Firehouse Project. It is our first mixed use project. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, 3090's role in that. And, that our relationship started and our partnership started at this kind of pivotal moment, at the point of our merger announcement, which I'll get back to a little bit later. But
Sure.
the Firehouse is it's a mixed use development. It involves the restoration of a historic firehouse that has sat empty, vacant, and blighted for over 3 decades. The firehouse was built in the early 1900s, back when the fire carts were drawn by horse. And it's significant for a couple of different reasons. One, there's a historic restoration. We've got a lot of, we're an old city. We've got a lot of great buildings, a lot of great architecture, and it's great when we can bring something back into commerce. And this is a building that historically served community as a firehouse. And even after it ceased to be a firehouse, it served as a polling location for voting. But one of the other significant aspects of it is this is the first project that's going through the city of New Orleans' new redevelopment framework. Historically, if the city of New Orleans wanted to get its vacant properties back into commerce, they would have to go to sheriff's sale, which means the city doesn't get to dictate the use. But through the redevelopment framework, the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority gets first right of refusal to lease the building, and they get to dictate the use. And in this particular case, the mandate was affordable housing and economic development. The other reason that this project is significant is because what is really what it's going to be. It will be 7 permanently deed restricted, permanently affordable rental units upstairs, and that there will be an early childhood education center downstairs, up to 65 seats. So that's significant in the fact that we're addressing 2 of the city's most urgent needs, affordable housing and access to childcare. And this is the first cohabitation of the two, of affordable housing and early child care in the city. So we're really, really excited to because we think that this is also a model that can be replicated. We've learned a lot through the process about really the synergy between creating affordable housing and creating a space for early childhood development. And what we've learned as the two are a really good fit. The importance of storytelling. Again, that building has sat, like I said, vacant for over 30 years. And most people in the city know it. When you mention it, you say, oh, the old firehouse on Louisiana Avenue. People know it, but it's always just been an eyesore. So to bring that building back into commerce, to bring that building back up to a standard where it serves community again is really exciting for us. But really, we strategically utilized that building to tell that story. We held our merger announcement at that building before we started work on it. And 3090, we contracted with 3090 to help us with that event. We had a press conference. We held a press conference to mark the closing of construction financing. And this was significant because this was coming up on the vote for the Housing Trust Fund. So we really wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to show folks and show community the types of organizations and the types of projects that the Housing Trust Fund could fund. And then we also hosted the groundbreaking at the event, which 3090 helped us with. So we're really excited about that partnership, because storytelling is so important for organizations like us, especially organizations that require funding, projects that require funding. We really kind of we have to celebrate the wins. And it's also an opportunity to lift up community voice through testimonials and things like that. So we're excited, and we're looking forward to the ribbon cutting, which we'll be working with 3090 on when that comes around. So stay tuned for that. That should be sometime early 2026.
Well, we love that, of course.
Right. Glad to hear that.
I have not driven down Louisiana in a little while. What is the latest on just the progress? Just catch us up.
Yeah, so the project, it's roughed in. Drywall should be going up in the next week or 2. The majority of the exterior is painted. The goal, we're shooting to have construction completed early 2026, with lease up of the residential units to follow. And then the early childhood center, we've got the operator already identified. She's just going to need to furnish the place, and she'll be up and running in 2026 as well.
This project has always been interesting to me because of the multi-use aspect. And as a mom, you know, even in the best situations, childcare is a challenge. So, knowing, and I was explaining a little bit about our process of learning through your education to us about how this component would come together and how having the childcare center on site is just not only is it a new concept in our area, but how impactful for working parents it will be if you can live in the property or near the property and 60 to 65 seats, that's a lot of children who will be served. So just from a early learning and literacy standpoint, I think it's a magnificent thing to be able to offer a new preschool in a community, even if it wasn't even touching any of these other sort of community-based help needs. It's just great to have a place for children to be during the day so that their parents can do what they need to do. The other thing that I would love to show Christiane when we're able to visit again soon to see the update is that there is still a horse stable building behind the front building, which we could kind of peek in at one of the events. And so to just think about something being in the city for that long, that there were horse-drawn vehicles at the time, not only is special with the New Orleans historic aspect, but just seeing how things can reserve again many, many decades later. The other thing, OG, that I love as part of the story that you told us is that the city architect at the time was really into the Tudor style. So there is a handful of Tudor firehouses, like a very small amount in the city. There's sort of these like hidden nuggets. It's almost like we should do like a, scavenger hunt map of where they all are for people because they are very noticeable. And the historic rehab part of it is always such a great story to tell. One of the really cool things that y'all did at the groundbreaking was highlight the young woman who's going to be the program director of the Early Learning Center and the progress that she has had as a business owner and a young Black business owner, and giving her this opportunity to scale her business. Even the side stories of the people who will have access to this building and the entrepreneurship that's going to be able to happen is just like secondary, really cool story that I think we were able to tell at the event. And so weaving together the positivity, such a key part of advocating for this type of work, and not only rehabbing old building and providing housing, but making sure that developers, whether they're for profit or nonprofit, are using the building, the story, and the events as a vehicle to share that message. And that's really Christiane's specialty. So I would love for her to, dive into that a little bit more because that has been her background. And I know we are newer to it, but we love it. And that's one of the reasons she joined our team is to kind of add a little bit more in that department because it really can be a huge asset for pushing the message forward.
Well, there is no more powerful stage for it. So, that is something I have loved about it. There's just so many things swirling through my head about this wonderful story. One, just pausing on the facts for early childhood education and just understanding that your reading ability by third grade is a powerful indicator of whether or not you will graduate from high school. Just the doors that will be opened from this are incredible. And second, I love that we're having this conversation during framing because I think that Rachel and I definitely, as we were talking about whether I would join 3090, we shared this moment of what we love about what we do is that ability to sort of stand in it and really feel the power of what we're building and making possible. But yes, these events. So working for an affordable housing developer and working with housing authorities, the nexus between the developer, the story, the services that must be offered in order to make the bricks and sticks really alive, right? So having the ability to call in the legislators, the local stakeholders, the local charities who will need to support you really need everybody in the room, the local police department. Everybody just needs to know what's happening. And, it's not enough just to have a news article. You really want to be able to share the story, to invite people to the podium and to hear those background stories, those horse-drawn carriages, if you will, trotting through the development itself. There's just no more powerful way. And then to close that off with the snip of a ribbon and just know that you're bringing everybody forward with that moment is powerful. So thank you for all you're doing, and I'm excited to hear that we get to participate in this ribbon cutting coming up. And hearing, I'm already, that tutor map is happening in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we might be handing that out at the event.
Yeah.
Let's more.
And just really to stay on the, on the storytelling aspect of it, how we learned about the city architect when the announcement went out that we were going to be redeveloping the firehouse. A gentleman who owns one of the Tudor firehouses in the Marigny reached out to us and said, "Oh, hey, I heard about that. I heard you're developing you're restoring the Central City firehouse. I actually bought one in the Marigny. And would you like to come see it?" So, so he reached out to us. We came and saw. He had purchased it through a sheriff's sale, and he turned it into a studio. And then he rents out space to, I think that there's a therapist who works out there, that there's an artist who works out there. So it was really cool to kind of see what he did with his space. And we didn't know where the Tudor style came from. As you know, New Orleans architecturally, it's, it is a gumbo. There's been so much influence historically in the architecture here, but we couldn't figure out where the Tudor style came from. And he was the one that told us that just coincidentally, the city architect at the time had a love of Tudor architecture. And, he had designed all of these firehouses in these time frames. But yeah, there's a few of them. There's one on Carrollton in Central City. I'm sorry, in Mid City. There's two of them in Mid City that I know about. Three of them in Mid City. The one in the Marigny, and ours in Central City. But again, it turns into this fun exercise of like, well, where are all the others? And you start going down that rabbit hole. And Erica, who the operator, it's a homecoming for her. She's a Central City native, and like many New Orleanians, was forced to go open her school someplace else because she couldn't afford to find a space in Central City. So she's been operating in West Wego for years. So this is an opportunity not only to keep her school in West Wego, but now come back home and expand and open a school in a neighborhood that she grew up with. And Rachel, I don't know if you remember at the groundbreaking, she spoke and she was able to get up and tell her, and she was so nervous, but she was great. And she got up and she was honestly the best speaker that we had up on the podium. But it was, but for her to be able to tell her story was really amazing.
Well, yes. I'm excited to hear about the future for the firehouse. Can you tell us a little bit more about the future for People's Housing? Is there anything else on the horizon that we need to hear about, know about, share here today for development that's coming our way?
Yes. And, as a matter of fact, we're one of the things we're really looking forward to is the recently passed Housing Trust Fund, the City of New Orleans Housing Trust Fund. And, 3090 was involved, and really we hit them. That one came out of nowhere. We called Rachel and said,
it was a timing crunch for sure,
yeah,
but it worked out great, right?
It was, we were like, hey, we have to throw a press conference because we wanted to give council member Leslie Harris, who is the author of the trust fund and the firehouses in her district, we wanted to give her a platform to talk about the housing trust fund before the vote. So we called Rachel and said, we've got to schedule a press conference and we got to do it in like 2 weeks. So we threw it together. And again, it was an opportunity to leverage the building, leverage the storytelling, give community an opportunity to hear, to get an idea of this housing trust fund. Nobody really knew what it was or what it was supposed to do. And to be able to show them something that they can see and touch and feel as something that, that these trust fund dollars could potentially support was really impactful. The trust fund passed by over 75% of the populace. So it was an overwhelming success. And what that does is that gives us a dedicated housing fund. 2% of the city's general ledger is going to be set aside. It's a constitutional amendment, so it'll be set aside in perpetuity to support affordable housing. And the committee just released the report of how the funding is going to look, and the significance of knowing that this funding is going to be there every year, and the significance of knowing what those pots are going to look like. I can't overstate the importance for an organization like us as we're planning our project mix. So we're always going to continue to do our single family for home ownership. We're going to continue to strategically use the community land trust model for home ownership in neighborhoods where we're seeing a lot of displacement, neighborhoods where people are priced out of owning homes. But what we're really looking forward to is utilizing the Housing Trust Fund to take advantage of the city's new small multifamily zoning ordinance. The city recently passed an ordinance that allows, as of right, up to 4 units to be built on any parcel that is zoned residential too. So any place where you can have a double, you can now have 4 units, but you can do it in 2 different buildings with no parking requirements. So that is an example of the city listening and creating some policy that is very, very developer friendly. The fact that you can build 4 units in 2 buildings keeps it in the residential construction range, in the residential construction realm. So it is very cost effective. It's scalable because your residential contractors can take advantage of this. So it's an opportunity to build scale, and it's also an opportunity to build capacity because you don't have to be a large, experienced LIHTC developer to build multifamily. We've got 2 models that we've developed. One is a rental model, but the one we're really, really excited about, and the one that we've been working on for quite some time, utilizes the community land trust structure. And what we believe it is a return to affordable owner-occupied doubles. With such an important and prevalent archetype in the city until it became unaffordable for most moderate income folks, owning a house with a rental unit attached where you could, historically what it did is it created naturally occurring affordability because in a lot of cases you had family members living in the other side, but then you had an extra income coming in to supplement your income. And through the CLT structure where we own the land through a 99-year ground lease, we think we've created a model that will allow folks to be able to actually buy owner-occupied doubles. So you're going to have an ownership aspect where there's equity and wealth creation, and then you've got rental housing as well. And not only do you have ownership and rental housing, you have long-lasting affordability in ownership and rental housing. So we think that this also checks off a lot of urgent needs for the city. So we're really excited to get going. We've got a couple of locations that we're looking to start working on in 2026 when these Housing Trust Fund dollars come available. But yeah, we're really, really excited. We're excited to work. We're excited to build. We're excited to teach. We're excited to continue to help build capacity because we're really excited about the scalability of this and really how many developers and contractors are going to be able to take advantage.
Oji, I have a question for you because it's obviously so helpful to a family to have additional income and also giving another place to live for someone else in the community, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a neighbor, right? Are these projects rehabs or new builds or both with the sort of like double concept?
Both. We have a number of different options. We worked with an amazing architecture firm, SQ Dumez Ripple. They do a Martin Luther King Day of Service project every year where they ask nonprofits to basically submit an architectural dilemma to them. And if you get selected, they help you solve it. And this is one of the things that they helped us with to create this model. So we have a few different options. One of them is to take existing blighted shotgun doubles, potentially utilize historic tax credits for the renovations. And where there's access, you can build either a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom stack behind the new double. So think of an accessory dwelling unit, but actually full-sized units. So that's an opportunity where you can take where there were existing doubles, renovate a blighted double, and build a new unit behind it. In the case of vacant lots, you can just build 2 brand new stacks. Depending on the lot length, you can do 1-bedroom stacks, 2-bedroom stacks, combination of both. And so we have a lot of versatility there, but we can utilize it through renovation, or we can utilize it, or we can utilize it with new construction.
That's awesome. Yeah, we might have to have EDR on our show also to talk about that MLK project. That sounds great. We have several friends over there, and they're great people and brilliant designers. So thank you for that idea. One of the things I wanted to just say, because we're hoping to get some national audience with this podcast, is that New Orleans, while it has its flaws, is a really special place, and we have just hit 20 years since Katrina, which in a way seems like 4 lifetimes ago for locals. It's sort of like, were we on a different planet? And you sort of have a hard time almost drawing back that far because so much has changed for the good. What people may not know is that there are many areas of the city that are still heavily blighted. And I think that's probably something people don't realize if they aren't here and they don't drive around, and that there are still structures which causes not just a structural problem, but water intrusion and overgrown yards and things that kind of keep going, and the degradation of property is a continued problem in New Orleans. And so the fact that y'all are looking at this multi-angle approach of new builds plus the blight reduction, it has been such a problem in New Orleans that's been sort of a quasi public private quandary to figure out, because a lot of these structures are in such disrepair because of storm or time or both. And so it is such a important project for someone to figure out how to economize doing something with, auxiliary dwelling or having a small scale multifamily or something that's allowable that maybe wasn't before, so that we can just impact change with reducing blight. I mean, even that one problem being solved is a big deal.
And the
Yeah.
generational wealth that that solves, right? So when you have ownership and you compound that with the profitability of having a rental space in that, you're just
Mhm.
decreasing the ramp to ownership, which is nice.
Yeah. And, the anniversaries of Hurricane Katrina are, a good opportunity to reflect on what we got right, what we got wrong, the work that we still need to do. Personally, I wasn't here for Katrina. I arrived a few years later. It is, again, it's an opportunity for people to tell their stories. But, I think we're moving in the right direction. This zoning text amendment is an example of us moving in the right direction and being creative, thinking outside of the box, because it's going to take a multi-pronged approach. We've got a lot to solve for. Where our population is declining. We've got to find ways for people to come here, stay here, get back here. We still have folks who are trying to get back and housing is an important part of that. Something, not the only part. But housing is an important part of that. We have neighborhoods that we have to rebuild. The Lower Ninth Ward, which was really the national poster child for Hurricane Katrina, has probably seen some of the fewest resources since the storm. It's safe to say that all neighborhoods have not recovered equally. So I think, as important as it is to reflect on the wins, I think it's more important to reflect, to think about the work that we still need to do. And it takes, it's going to take scale. But it's going to take partnership. I can't talk about any of these projects or any of our work without talking about our great partners. 3090, Ledet Community Development, who is our partner, who is teaching us how to do what we're doing at the Firehouse, the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority, the City of New Orleans, all of our consultants, DMS Communications, who tells our story every single day. We've got our other housing partners. We've got our philanthropic partners, our lending partners. This work doesn't happen unless we do it together. And I think collectively we really can continue to have an impact.
And I think that's a
Well,
great jumping off point, because all of those people that you named are in sort of the mix of the people that we hope to be continuing to speak to through this podcast and to share these stories and how critical these partnerships are. I feel like we could talk to you all day long, but
Mhm.
Rachel, I think that we probably have to bring today to a close.
I know, and I could just grab OG for like 4 more hours. He'd be
Yeah.
tired of talking to me. I do wanna say that one of the things that OG, I love that you're talking about showing up and asking questions, and especially even for us learning and continuing to learn where people might have fear in just showing up and asking questions. I feel like, you and some of our other developer friends in the area sort of joke about like, well, nobody knows how to get this stuff done. We just start. And so sometimes having the right partners and leaders like a Limbic community development, having friends in the finance side who are willing to help. And sometimes it's as simple as continuing to show up and ask questions and have people who advocate for you to do it is why these projects are able to happen. And so I love that part of it. I want to give everyone the website to learn more about you, which is phplusnola.org. in case people want to learn more about your organization and about this project. I'm sure you'll be sharing project updates on the firehouse and other things. And Christianne, as her and I are very impassioned future developers ourselves. And I always say I want to be a developer when I grow up. So, I'm like, this multi-house project thing in New Orleans. I'm like, this could be our next thing. And then we can just keep following Oji around and learn how to accomplish that. It's very interesting. But we certainly love your passion for your projects and your appreciation for good communication and good storytelling. And we appreciate you telling your story today so that we can help others to do the same thing and to do it the right way, which is even more important than doing it. So we cannot thank you enough for being here. We love watching the work that you're doing, and we cannot wait to walk inside of the firehouse when it's done and share the good news with the community, because that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully we get to see you very soon.
Well, looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you so much, Christiane. We look forward to continuing the conversation and again, however we can be helpful, getting the word out. We need to keep the spotlight on New Orleans, not just Katrina anniversaries, but every day, every month, every year, because it is a special city. And, ask anyone who lives here, ask anyone who's visited. So anywhere we can be helpful, we're happy to.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to The Comms Exchange, a podcast by 3090 Marketing. We'll be back with more conversations that spark ideas and inspire action. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us keep the conversation going. Until next time.